I'm glad you said poker fan. That's who honestly is going to benefit the most from what we're going to accomplish in the 2026 World Series of Poker.
It's the PokerNews Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PokerNews Podcast, a special episode here at Level 9 Studio in Las Vegas. I'm Chad Holloway, joined by Mike Holtz, Ben Ludlow, and returning, a triumphant return to the PokerNews Podcast, Jeff Platt.
This was my first, okay, that's weird. This was my first gig. It was 8 years ago. It was in 2018 before the World Series of Poker. I was co-hosting with the great Sarah Herring. And we interviewed a poker couple who was traveling and raiding poker rooms. I can remember being so nervous for that moment. Same here. Very nervous to talk to you guys.
The big stage.
Thank you all
Finally
for
back
having
on the big stage.
We are back.
Welcome, man.
So basically, we can blame Chad for your career.
Yes, you can.
Blame
or
it was. I do remember.
I would blame.
It was in end of 2018 into 2019 where I was brought back into the PokerNews fold, and then I got to join you and Sarah on the show, which was a lot of fun. We had some great episodes throughout, and then you ended up leaving, Sarah ended up leaving, and all of a sudden I found myself with the podcast.
And then you decided to upgrade to a studio with some good co-hosts.
Yeah.
I see how it is. Yeah.
One thing at a time,
Yeah, it seems fair.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
It is exciting to have you back and
Thank you.
exciting to chat with you about what you are up to now, because there's been some big life changes for you.
Mm-hmm.
You went from the PokerNews podcast and a lot of other things, to be fair, and then really were associated with Poker Go for a long time. But now you are with the World Series of Poker, the WSOP. Congrats.
Yeah, how about that? I got a new fancy title and everything. It says, thank you. It says Global Broadcast Talent and Live Program.
Okay.
What that basically means is I'll just be doing a lot of what you guys have seen in the past. There's plenty of hosting, commentary, sideline reporting. I'll take on a little bit more of a producer role, a little bit more of a player engagement role, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and just kind of be around whenever World Series of Poker needs somebody with a microphone. That's going to be me. Hopefully we'll still work with Poker Go and the great crew over there as far as some production is concerned, but I'm really happy and I feel really fortunate to be aligned with the World Series as they enter, or at the very least continue, what I consider to be a new era.
Yeah, I think it certainly is. And it's some big shoes, so to speak, or like the history of the World Series of Poker. You're becoming kind of like the face of it. And right, it's kind of fair to say, but like the shoes, if you look back throughout history of the World Series of Poker, like Lon and Norm on commentary were associated with those poker boom years. Even before that, you had Gabe Kaplan was associated with the WSOP. Dick Van Patten was associated in the earlier days of the WSOP. And now like you said, a kind of a new era, GG Poker, taking over the WSOP, and a lot of changes. You get the WSOP Plus app. I don't know. This is, for me, very exciting. Yeah,
it's a big responsibility. To your point, I think the WSOP has always held a certain amount of prestige for its history. You mentioned Lon and Norm still around. The tributes that they pay their main event champions, and they always invite them to the Super Main in the Bahamas, for example, and they have Champions Invitationals. They really respect what the World Series of Poker has accomplished in the past. And now it's just all about making the World Series better, not just for players, but for viewers as well. Try to bring people into the game. This is a massive operation now. And credit to the World Series, because I think they had a full-time staff of 5 or 6 people for maybe 15 to 20 years or so. Yeah. And they were still able to pull off what they did time and time again. It's so impressive. And now they just have so much more leeway, and they can really attack and do what they've wanted to do for quite some time. So
I always said that was exciting. One of the great fallacies is people, from my experience when talking to the recreational player, they thought the World Series of Poker was comprised of thousands of employees or something. Yeah. Right? It's like 4 or 5, 6 guys in an office.
No, it's surprising. You'd think, there'd be more people. That's crazy.
I know.
Thousands of people at Caesars. But yeah, this is, I think you need a little bit of a reset in a way to tackle new things, to create new ideas.
Sure.
It's just, obviously, there's, the World Series of Poker success has kind of gone in a straight line up. But, you get stuck in sort of we've always been doing this, it works. Yeah. You need new people to come in with new ideas, with new capital to do all these things. And so, great decision to hire you.
Thank you for saying that.
And I think, I would love to talk about, I think we have talked off air, we've all talked about it on air, that poker brands need someone like you to be a face, to deal with players, to, kind of be there when, if I was thinking about a problem with the WPT or I had something to talk to, I could talk to Matt Savage. I mean, he is sort of a face of it. Or I could talk to, Brad Owen or someone. The World Series has been missing that for so long. And so to have someone who is obviously like an elite player in his own, whatever. I was about to say mine. That's wrong. You are an elite player.
Only in my own mind.
Yeah, in your own mind. But to have someone who like cares deeply about playing the game, is a player himself, and on the broadcast side and on the production side, I think like this is a huge step in the right direction towards, making this brand just like bringing him into the 21st century, if you will, alongside all the other poker brands that have been innovating. So,
and I think the World Series and GG, of course, has tried to utilize Daniel in that role, and he's fantastic but the high roller players are going to come to him. The Jeremy Osmonds, Seth Davies of the world, they'll come to Daniel with any issues. They'll talk through things, and I want to be there for that mid-tier, whether it's the Weekend Warriors coming out for the Colossus and that's his or her one event that they get to play, or whether it's like you guys who have been around the industry for a while, know what's best in kind of that 1K to 5K price point. I want to listen to everybody. I want to be able to communicate with everybody. As far as specific, structures go, times go, like I'll leave all that to the Kev Maths of the world. But for big picture ideas and engagement, and yes, I can represent the World Series of Poker while also trying to strengthen the bridge between the World Series and the player community so the players don't feel as isolated. So the players at least feel like they're being listened to, knowing that not every request, of course, can be accommodated, but knowing that like there's at least a voice that will connect the dots here.
Well, like Ben said, we had talked about it before plenty of times on the podcast, and this is always in my opinion, is the World Series of Poker has to have somebody like you now who can be a bridge between the players and WSOP, because the last few years, it just seemed like there's so many complaints about all these issues happening here and there, and then we just got no one to talk to it about, and you feel kind of like you're just dealing with a corporation.
We had hoped that person would be Vince Vaughn.
How much did they pay that guy to show up for 30 minutes? Like, oh my God.
Well,
that was a Caesars thing.
That's why you can only they could only hire 5 employees. They need to spend the money on Vince Vaughn, obviously.
They doubled everyone's salaries and combined them and gave it to Vince Vaughn for showing up for 30 minutes.
But it's very important because in not just poker, but everything, it seems like in this day and age is profit-centric. It's all, how can the corporations suck you dry? So it's I really like the WSOP. And they hired TJ Reed as well, correct?
Yeah, TJ Reed will be the US Circuit manager, I think is the title. And I see him overseeing a lot. I see us working together. I think the circuit can really take off, both here in the States and internationally as well. I mean, the circuit gets great turnouts kind of on its own, kind of with the hands-off approach. If we put some hands on it like we're starting to do, I think it could really explode.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think with a few tweaks, it could be much, much better. And certainly having someone like TJ Reed, having someone like you to be able to talk to is like a huge thing for the players, because before there's no recourse. You can go to whoever, you can talk to the floor, they're just going to tell you, what can we do about it? So it's nice.
I think that's the big difference between we'll say the old WSOP under Caesars, right? Caesars is a corporate entity, operating under a corporate structure. It's hard to get things done, and it's hard. Most people who work under a corporate structure are doing for their single job. They're really doing like 10 people's jobs, right? Yeah. And they're spread thin, and they can't, or to your point, maybe not pay attention to the circuit as much as they would like to because they just don't have the manpower or the time. Whereas now, under the new ownership, which isn't quite a corporate structure, there's more concentrated power. So if the person on top wants to say, yeah, we're going to devote time and attention to this, or we'll hire more people to do it. And that seems to be what is happening, and which I think is going to be felt throughout the WSOP, throughout the circuit, is as they bring on you, TJ Reed, and others probably a lot more behind the scenes, is you're going to see more innovation. You're going to see more player-centric and player-friendly things introduced to the WSOP. It might take years, but we're already seeing it. WSOP Plus app was the greatest example from last year.
Yeah, and I mean, the Bahamas, they gave away so much money to players. Obviously, there were tons of people who would never have gone if they hadn't incentivized them monetarily. Don't give me that face.
you baby boy.
No, I mean, look, they gave
something to say, Mike?
No, incentivized a bunch of people to go to the Bahamas and play in their $25,000 event. Good for them. What nice people. So kind to them.
Anyway, no, but I don't see a reason that like the circuit can't be look, we all know about the World Series of Poker. in Vegas during the summer.
Yeah.
It's always going to have a production. The history is there. We've all been watching that for our whole poker lives. But there's no reason, like, there's a huge history of the circuit too. There's tons of like, we talk about the circuit practically every week, mostly because Maurice is winning rings and he's a scumbag. But, there's no reason that the circuit can't be, I mean, I'm not saying they produce it like a WPT, but there's no reason that like that can't be an ongoing thing that like keeps you in the brand all year, that people are talking about, that like there's live streams, whatever it is. So I'd love to see more of that. So excited to see what you and TJ are.
Hopefully the first thing that you do is upgrade the rings.
Okay, well, not a bad idea. See, I'll take that.
Real
diamonds. TJ thing. Let's go that one on TJ.
He's coming on next.
He's literally 30 minutes he comes in. So.
I do think, Ben, to your point, that you'll start to see the circuit be ramped up. You're starting to see a couple super circuits, at least internationally.
That's great.
In Cyprus, in Montreal, and then production to accompany those. And, it's only a matter of time. You test the product a little bit, see if it's going to work in the States, and then start to become more of a year-round product, at least from a content creation side, versus just being on in the summer in Vegas and then turn it back on come late May or early June.
Because the circuit is probably the lifeblood of the brand and kind of like what so much of us, the not 6 weeks of the year that are the World Series in Vegas, like are looking to, are playing, are traveling to, et cetera. So, I mean,
the circuit is, I spent a lot of time working in the mid-majors, we'll say, right? Which the circuit certainly is. The WSOP circuit is, and not everybody can come to Las Vegas, especially for 6 weeks. Maybe they'll come during the summer if they're lucky and get to play, but a large percentage of the poker playing population will never make it to the World Series of Poker in Vegas. So the circuit is the way of bringing the WSOP to them.
Yeah.
Right. And the WSOP has been doing that for decades now, which is great. But like you said, it's been very hands off. And I don't think they've tapped into the history of it, which you now can do a little bit more. Yeah, we're always paying attention to the all-time circuit ring winners, right? Like Maurice and Ari Engel in that race. That's very exciting. But like, tell me, I want to know on the circuit, who's the all-time circuit money leader from Biloxi or from Tunica or Harris Cherokee, that sort of thing, right? And, TJ, I know TJ very well. I think that's the sort of stuff he will definitely at least take into consideration and start building out.
We'll get there. I mean, if you looked at the World Series of Poker 3 years ago, it's just focused on the WSOP in Vegas.
Right.
And then you bring WSOP Paradise into the mix. And then you relaunch World Series of Poker Europe by moving it to Prague and having a 5K 10 mil guarantee on its main event. And it's just going to keep expanding. And then you're going to highlight a couple super circuits, and then you're going to take it to the rest of the circuit. So it's a work in progress, but you can see the wheels moving.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about that I know you're passionate about is live viewership.
Yeah.
Because I know, we've been friends for a long time. We've always talked about it, where we've gone to final tables at the World Series in Vegas, and it's like, there's like 3 people here. There's no excitement. And I just like my earlier memories of poker before I was like fully engrossed in the world and living in Vegas were, these rowdy final tables. I mean, the first summer I ever was in poker, I was working for Chad at PokerNews, was 2010. It may have been the year before, or the year after that this happened, but I will never forget the 25K heads up that Jay Cody won, where it was like, I've never been to a more electric sporting event in my life. That was fucking crazy. So tell me like a little bit about thoughts in terms of just like live viewership, because like we need to bring that back. There's no reason. We have so much foot traffic on the strip now. Like that was at the damn Rio where it was hundreds of people watching. So.
Right. I feel like we have effectively 2 types of viewers. We have those via the live stream and those live in person. And you might think of them as different entities, but they actually connect, because if you had that Jake Cody event on TV, that translates to a better product for our viewers at home. So it's fair to initially be like, well, that rail's only going to help like 90 people, whatever. We have to make the best setup for our hopefully hundreds of thousands or millions or whatever viewers at home. But we want to now, again, goes back to this connecting the dots, because if the experience live is good, that's going to really come across on camera. It's going to make a better product. It's going to make a better show. So they've certainly heard my concerns over the years as far as...
I've read some emails you've sent over the last 5 to 10 years.
I sent some long emails. But I think we're really aligned. I think Ty Stewart, the CEO now of the World Series of Poker, has always been aligned with this and trying to find ways to do it. And the stage setup this year will be unlike anything else.
Good.
Yeah.
And it will also have the capability, the space for not just people to be there. The actual space thing was never really an issue. You could fit in enough people, but for people to at least know what's going on. Yeah. And sure, we know it's a little more boring without the whole cards, right? Without access to seeing what. But if you're at least aware of when a big pot is being played, when there's an all-in and a call, and you don't have to be like, who has what, all of that kind of stuff. Again, it's going to be a work in progress, but it is top on our minds for sure, that live viewership, because that is really, really important to us.
Yeah, I remember pre-COVID, I mean, it used to be the standard that a TD would be there announcing hands and saying what's going on. And I understand why that, for man count, all of these things, you got to cut some things. I get it. But something as simple as that.
Yeah, we used to do a thing with PokerNews as reporters because we would work alongside, a lot of the tournament directors. I remember Red Bull Robbie back in the day.
Oh my God. Red Bull Robbie. Where is Red Bull Robbie?
We would give him a list of 10 very obscure words, and his challenge was to work them into his commentary. And he did, every time. So
I also want somebody to come to a final table and enjoy their time, even if they aren't sweating any particular player. Yeah. Or if it's not, Dano Negreanu or Phil Hellmuth there, because that's going to draw a crowd. But I want a part of your World Series of Poker experience to see the stage, to be there, to feel like you're a part of that atmosphere, which I also want to convert to our live stream viewers at home, to take them in. And I think you'll see with this kind of streaming setup, with this kind of stage,
some seating sections. Seat 1, seat 2, seat 3.
We're gonna have a lot. Box seats. That might be.
I might get season tickets.
That might be. Yeah, we should do that with suites.
That'd be dope.
That'd be.
We were talking to James Cardigan on a past podcast about Ireland. How they, I said they should have Guinness taps at the table.
Could be a future podcast.
That could be. It's true. It's true.
It definitely could help if the drink servers serve the rails a little bit more. Than
100%.
They do a pretty good job, but unlike the past where it was just keep bringing trays of Coronas as fast as you can, and they will get drunk.
Right. You just gotta give them, if you give them 100 right at the beginning and just say keep the Coronas coming, you get it 100%.
That's my biggest pitch as far as that goes. We get a lot of. Or I've already gotten a lot of requests about food and everything, and drinks on the rail. That's a lot harder. This is World Series of Poker over here, and you have Caesars over here who's
with their unions,
who's in the role as host, but their unions, and this has to be this has to be that. We're going to try our best, but just keep that in mind. I think best strategy is give them a lot of money at the beginning, and then you'll be good. Keep tipping them.
You can't do something with the WSP Cafe there where you can have people food runners, or is that just a whole complicated, crazy issue?
I mean, I hope to have that. Sure. It is also a whole complicated, crazy issue, but I hope that we can at least, work with Caesars a little bit more as far as that's concerned.
Very important question. Yeah. Can you still play World Series events?
Can I? Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
He would have said no. He would have turned it down.
No. I figured that was part of your negotiation, but it would be pretty sick if you.
I do genuinely plan to work just about every day. We're going to have a pregame show, a morning show of sorts to kind of set the stage for the live stream. I'll be hosting that and be a part of the production team for that. I do hope to jump into some events here and there. I don't think the main will be one of them, but you know me, I'm weird. I like to work the main as opposed to
I mean, that's cool, I think.
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time, and I feel like as early as I've known you and you've worked in poker, your whole kind of dream goal with all of this was to someday be a part of the main event.
Right,
now that's already happened, and now you've achieved beyond that. So,
and you have won events at the World Series of Poker before. Now, granted, it's not a bracelet, but you are a former PokerNews Heads Up champion. I'm showing the winner's photo on screen right now. I'm sure
you got circuit rings.
I've got all of one. So I have one ring. One's great.
MSPT champion.
But I was ghosting him for that.
Yeah, there was no ghosting. No to let the record show.
I was there.
No ghosting.
No, he played your role.
I'm sorry, Chad. Yes, you were saying MSPT champion. Didn't want that to go missed.
It is going to be fun. So one of the things I want to ask you about, you mentioned the live experience. One thing that I know, and I think I speak for a lot of poker players out there, when we fell in love with the WSOP during the kind of poker boom era, is we felt more of a connection with the players because we got to know them personally, or you would see vignettes with them at their homes or things like that. And I know sometimes the logistics and the budgets don't always work that way, but I do think that there's a better way to try to get to know these players a little bit more.
That's why I love the November 9.
Well, that was kind of where I was going with this. Is not necessarily is there going to be a return of the November 9, but one of the good things about that, at least from a media perspective, that gave us an opportunity to get into to the lives of these players. I could have them in the studio in between and things like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's got to be a better balance, if you will, in that regard.
Yes. I think there are two sections of the WSOP to focus on as far as that is concerned. One is all of the events leading up to the main, and then of course separately is the main. Let's talk about the former first. And all of the events leading up to the main, I think in the past it's been very easy to fall into the trap. You said this at the beginning of, this is how we always do it. We show this final table, boom, that's over. Then we show this final table, boom, that's over. Now we're going to try to connect everything, mainly because Spunky's head of production wants to focus on storylines that are connected throughout the entire World Series of Poker. Right. Because if you just focus on one certain final table or tournament, that storyline could be great, could be amazing. Yeah. You're going to lose it in a day, and we're all on to the next thing. So imagine the big picture storylines like Player of the Year race, but you also had 10 other storylines. Yeah. And so that's something that we really want to develop. That's going to be a goal of the live stream, of the pregame show, of social media. It's all going to try to connect and revolve around these storylines. I wouldn't say create them, but just showcase them to viewers. Then the main event. We all know that the best chance that poker has to reach out to a more casual audience, even an audience who doesn't know anything about poker, is the distribution of the main event. They have really big plans in place for that distribution. Hopefully, those will come into fruition, be finalized. You guys will hear about them soon enough.
It's going to be on NBC after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the post-Super Bowl slot, actually. That would be amazing. Yeah. But to your point, I think you will have now more time to dive into the stories that the main event is able to create, final table included.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, and I think the morning show and kind of like that sort of cornerstone of here's everything that's happening helps that a lot. So,
That can be a combination of that and then setting the stage for that live stream that you're about to see. And the live stream is not going to just be a final table. Sure, the final table is going to be a featured element of it, but with the stage set up, and you could have 3 different tournaments going on here with a cluster in the middle here to keep an eye on the Negranis and Helmies of the world. It's going to be a very innovative experience that I think our viewers are going to fall in love with.
Good.
Yeah. One of the other things we've talked a lot about on the PokerNews podcast over the years, and it's near and dear to my heart, because I'm like, when in the hell are they going to fix it? The Poker Hall of Fame. No, I know it's not WSOP per se, but it is under the same umbrella. Yeah, and you're so my question is, when the hell are you going to fix the Poker Hall of Fame? Just kind of your thoughts. I really give the WSOP or officials credit of like snap inducting Michael Mizrachi last year. That was just the right move, smart, because why backlog it even further? But as we've talked about many times on the show, it seems like it's due for some change. Not only, in my opinion, of just more than one per year. I mean, back in the day, it was 2. Media was involved. I used to have a vote in it. Now it's just the living members. So I just think there's a better work for that, especially with the backlog that's coming. And then also, to tie in what we've talked about a little bit about like experience in history, I think there should be at least some sort of Poker Hall of Fame physical, at least an exhibit during the summer that people can come, or maybe even a traveling one on the circuit to kind of pay respect to the history of the World Series of Poker and poker in general.
I think there will be more of that, more tributes to the Poker Hall of Fame. I think, like we talked about at the beginning, the WSOP has treated its past champions with respect. There's a lot of prestige associated with the brand, and there's a lot of prestige associated with the Poker Hall of Fame, especially within the poker community. But obviously, we want everybody to see that, not just the media, not just the people who are actually in the Hall of Fame. We want to expand that and really cherish the Poker Hall of Fame. To be honest with you, I personally would like to bring back media into the fold as far as voting is concerned. I think that's going to be really important, especially as we approach, you said, backlog. These next few years are just going to be wild, and you're going to have so many legitimate candidates for the Poker Hall of Fame. So I think the voting process could be tweaked. It's not going to be my call. I am going to at least have a seat as far as any discussions are concerned. But the Poker Hall of Fame, it's a great point. It's really important to the game. And I think that, we will go a lot further than just, I shouldn't say just, but than having the Hall of Fame poker room, which is great. And you can have a lot of those and you can have a lot of pictures. But I think more needs to be done as far as the Poker Hall of Fame
goes.
goes.
One year at the Rio, I don't know the exact year, probably 2011, 12, thereabouts, but in the rotunda out front, they had about half a dozen display cases, and in those displays, they had things that a lot of the poker pros loaned, right? So Doyle Brunson had loaned some of his bracelets.
Yeah.
They one year at the WSOP, they gave away gold plates in somebody who had won one. So like you actually got to see a little bit of poker history that you wouldn't. I thought that was cool, but then it kind of disappeared. But stuff like that.
In the what's the room the Thunderdome's in now? I don't even know what you'd call that. But on the left side, when you walk in, there's like a Copag, or there's like the place where the money sits.
Yeah.
You just have something set up there, right? I mean, I think that'd be pretty
There's
cool.
so many spots you could do some kind of Hall of Fame exhibit.
Or you could just keep that and have a video playing. Like, you know, they have the TV with like old highlights running. They could just have like a video of the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
You know, something like that.
Or a 100-foot statue of Phil Hellmuth on top of the horseshoe.
Well, I figured that as well.
Yeah. That's where the money's going.
But I think the biggest thing is more than one person a year has to get inducted. We talked about this before, and it's like
Negronier's had a great solution, and he's obviously got a big voice within the WSOP.
Right.
So I'm confident that we might see something like that, where his basically is 2 every year, and then every third year, I believe it's 3 because that third person would be an industry person.
Yeah.
oh wow, I think that's not enough. But yeah,
I mean,
you got to say steps in the right direction.
I suppose, but. Man, I said this argument the other day. It's like in football, you have like a 10-year career, and then they induct 5 or 6 people. In poker, it's your career can be 30 years, 20 years, and we're only inducting 1 or 2. You know, it's like
I get it.
One of the other things that I think is a challenge to you, not to put you on the spot, but again, that
getting dressed in the morning.
Yeah. You can do it, man. That we've talked about a little bit, and I think someone like Mike or whoever would love is. World Series Player of the Year is amazing. And like that's always a race that everyone tracks. But we know the 10 to 20 people who are going to be competing. I mean, you're priced out if you can't play all the 10Ks, if you can't play high rollers. Like it's just not.
You'd have to travel to Europe too and everything. But I'm assuming that doesn't matter for what you're about to say.
Yeah, no. But again, to your point, like a lot of things make it not feasible for someone like me, someone like Mike or whoever who's like a mid-stakes kind of grinder to do that. More leaderboards better. You know what I mean? Like something like a mixed game leaderboard or a mid stakes or a whatever it is, 1,500 and under. Like I just think, again, you create more history. You create people trying to grind for a specific goal. And as we said before, like people just like to win shit. So it's like anything you can do, you're not giving them a bracelet for winning that or whatever. Or you don't even have to give them cash prize, but like something
creates more storylines.
Yeah, it creates more storylines. So yeah, I think more leaderboards, something like that, even if it's like not super official, just makes a ton of sense.
The proof of concept is there too with the PokerNews Daily Deep Stacks now, with the PokerNews sponsors that do a leaderboard, and we've seen players get invested in that, right?
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I think this new Player of the Year race, while at the top, I obviously agree with you guys. Like it's really, it's going to be somebody who plays all the events, all the high rollers, and they're going to be live. But considering the amount of, I guess the word is prizes, maybe rewards that will go out to at least the top, I think 100. It might be 50.
I think it's 100.
Okay, I think it's 100 too. It will at least give you something to fight for and at least keep your eyes on Player of the Year standings overall. I think, of course, in a dream world, you would have something for the mid-stakes players to fight for the lower stakes players to fight for. We have the deep stack leaderboards that Chad mentioned. And, hopefully poker blows up and we get a bunch of sponsors and we can do a bunch of money in each race. But I think, again, steps in the right direction. And this will at least involve more people in shooting for
more
some
money.
kind of
We could do
reward.
that. That's what you're saying? They don't have enough money. That's the reason? Okay.
No, I did not.
Bitcoin's not where it used to be.
That's true. Yeah. It's lost. Yeah.
Let's talk about you and your history with the WSOP. We had James Hartigan on where he talked about some of his favorite moments from the EPT and his time there. So I'm just curious, you're entering a new era, if you will, in your career with the WSOP, but you've done a lot of WSOP work in the past, as sideline reporter and interviewer. What are some of your favorite memories, maybe even as a player, but also as, a host of the WSOP up to this point?
Bluffing me with Pocket Fours? Is that one of your
memories? Side note, this wasn't going to come up in my top memories, no offense, but I did play a hand against Mike. I did bet on a bluff and he folded, and then right away, like as he's folding, he says, like sixes with a spade or something, and folded. I'm like, yeah, actually, it was exactly sixes with a spade. This guy's very good at poker, but needs to trust his reads a bit more.
I'd bottom pair.
As far as memories, I mean, one that really stands out is 2021 World Series of Poker main event. It was my first one as sideline reporter. Kara couldn't make it. She couldn't make it the year before the COVID main. Let's just throw that out for a sec. But let's focus on 2021. It was for PokerGo / CBS Sports. I get the mic, I'm in the production meeting in the morning. It's my first day. It's the first day of our huge main event coverage, which just feels different. I mean, in preliminary events, we have a production crew of maybe 15 to 20, 25 people. And for the main, it's 80 to 100. It's just an unbelievable production. I'm already terrified. I'm already super nervous. And then in our meeting beforehand, Dan Gotti, the boss man, looks at me and he says, okay, Jeff, well, you're going to start the show with an interview with Doyle. And so I'm thinking like, oh my God, like I'm already so nervous. This is day one of the main event. This is my first opportunity. It kicks off the show and it's with Doyle Brunson.
So Doyle, what's up?
So
right
like
before.
I remember standing off stage, just again so nervous. And Brent Hanks, now CEO of PokerGo, which is another story in its own right, comes up to me. He's like, he could tell I was nervous. He says, "This is what you do," and I just have that visual very distinctly of talking to Doyle and having a really good chat with him, and that like gave me so much confidence moving forward as World Series of Poker main event sideline reporter. And then, of course, what stands out, you already talked about this moment, Michael Mizrachi winning. And I wouldn't say most bracelet celebrations are the same, but we do follow the same script for them as far as the main event is concerned. I'll be up there with Jack. But this was different. I mean, when you see Phil Ivey start to walk up, Jennifer Harmon, Phil Hellmuth, when they just walk up to the stage, I had a little bit of an idea, but we didn't want to rehearse the whole thing. When you see that happening and you realize the totality of this moment, that this has never been done before, but our main event champion is going into the Poker Hall of Fame, just to be on stage for that, I thought was really, really cool for me. And then, playing wise, I did Final Table World Series of Poker event.
There was
knocked out Alex.
The night before Mizrachi won, it was where he said, like, I can't remember the exact. The exact phrasing of the question.
What will it take?
What a classic.
It says about an hour. That's probably the question and answer that I'll remember the most.
He's a real life.
I related to your Doyle story because I had a moment with him that I felt was kind of like I was super nervous about, but also felt like once it was done was, I don't know, there was a step in my poker journalistic career, if you will.
Yeah, good way to put it.
It was, I wrote an article about Bob Hooks, kind of a forgotten poker player from the Texas road days that Doyle knew. And he was so appreciative that I wrote this, and then I found him. He thought that Bob Hooks was dead, and I found that he wasn't. And so he agreed to do an interview with me at the World Series of Poker. He was just coming in for a day, and he made it clear he didn't want to talk to anybody else. And so not only did I get one-on-one time with Doyle, it ended up being in a public space where literally it was roped off, and it was the other media were like roped off trying to get anything they could from him, but it's me and him with a recorder. And then, that was just like, I've interviewed the godfather of poker, right? And rest in peace now, but to get that opportunity was just tremendous. And same for you.
We went to his last final table, right? Remember that?
The No Limit Deuce. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I remember him busting, eliminated, walking off in that standing ovation, and you felt it in the room. You feel a certain electricity among certain players. Obviously, that list is short, but that list definitely included
Phil Ivey or Negreanu or Hellmuth make a final table. Something
feel
about
it in the room. Yeah, and so hopefully, to go back to a previous point, we can create that buzz around more. That's going to be a lot of work in our storytelling, but hopefully we are able to develop more stars because that's going to be really important.
No Limit Deuce, you're obviously a tournament winner of No Limit Deuce. Or you've gotten second a few times.
Yeah, right? I think I finished second in very good at No Limit Deuce.
Yeah. So are we going to see you in the 10K this year?
No, absolutely not. No, I'll have a limited window to play WSOP events. And
what a 4-day 10K No Limit Deuce.
As much as I respect it, I could watch
playing online on your phone while you're commentating with me.
While I'm commentating with you.
No. You're commentating, but then you're playing online. I'm at the table.
I got you. You're at the online
or
table.
That one,
Yeah.
Well, I would like to have a good relationship with WSOP Online. As you guys probably know, and I don't know how many listeners or viewers know this, they are separate entities, but I plan to meet with them and hope to be a voice for them, again, strengthening the bridge with the players and with the World Series of Poker, or in this case, anything that the World Series is associated with, attached to. But I'm still there. I'm firing online. You got scared.
I got scared.
Yeah, you got scared. I don't see your name anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I'm on Club WPT
next
Gold.
topic.
Yeah. No, let's talk about WSP Online.
Are you excited for this WSOP? I mean, this will be your first WSOP as a full-time WSOP employee, but like you're familiar with the inner workings behind the scenes. So as much as you can share with us, should the average poker fan expect anything different, largely the same? Like I said, WSOP Plus app was a big bombshell in a good way in 2025. So
I'm glad you said poker fan. That's who honestly is going to benefit the most from what we're going to accomplish in the 2026 World Series of Poker. Talked about how important it was to create the viewing experience, both live and via live stream. And that will, again, I keep insisting on this, but that will change so dramatically. I mean, you guys saw the stage set up at WSOP Paradise. This stage is 4 times that. I mean, it's hard to wrap my head around still. I know Ben's trying to like compute.
Yeah.
And it's going to take up almost a whole room. I mean, and then we're going to have maybe 4 times the production crew we would normally have, but especially for that month leading up to the World Series of Poker main event. There are a lot of big plans on the horizon. And then as far as the schedule is concerned, the player experience is concerned, the app is only getting better as far as the organization is concerned. It's going to be, again, just a really simple process for everything. I think in looking at the schedule, I don't mean to brag, I've seen a copy. I think they've always done a pretty good job at this, but even more so, like to not just have the low stakes and the high rollers and just the weekend warriors and the best of the best, but like they're really focusing in on that middle ground as well. The 1Ks, 1500s, 3Ks of the world, and paying tribute to our circuit players also. I think that's what stood out.
Better go get a ring, Mike.
To me.
I got 6 rings, baby.
No, for this year. Come on.
I'll get one tonight. Fine.
Cool.
What influence you get some rings? But I think we've already announced that the ring can be converted into a package in Europe or in Paradise. But more towards that kind of player during the World Series of Poker.
I think it's really important to do like what you're saying with the storylines of the players, like having like what UFC or what boxing does, where it's like before the fight, you get like interviews and you see their training and you see their lifestyle and how they grew up. And then when I watch the fight, I'm not like, it might be a boring fight, but I'm like, I got to root for my boy Benoit.
Yeah, exactly.
He's fighting for young Charles at home.
I
want to know. I want to know like how much Tylenol has Benny Glazer eaten. You know what I mean? Like I want to know. That's what I'm interested in.
And in the dream scenario, we would have that, or perhaps we'll have that eventually with like almost like documentary crews all over the place. But we're going to have. Besides the live stream, separate to that as far as live updates is concerned, a couple, I think Spunky calls them like special forces teams or something. And they're just going to be assigned to all the other tournaments going on. And they're going to pick up the highlights and show you more of the highlights. So you're more immersed in the World Series of Poker and don't have to be there to be as immersed in the overall experience.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. The old ESPN production of WSOP was like the main event was always so sick. And like getting back to that, I think it's really cool.
I think we'll get back to that.
Yeah, hell yeah.
We're going to try our best to create all of these storylines that we talked about, but without any media there, it's going to be really hard to transfer the love of those storylines over to our viewers.
Yeah,
so
pressure
I think
back on you, Chad.
Yeah, I think we're all
Chad.
We're all on the same team here, Chad.
Well, I'm confident.
I can't wait.
I've been with PokerNews at the World Series of Poker since 2010. I think I am now. Thanks to the COVID year that you said we don't talk about, but I was there for that. Had to go through all the testing. I think I have the longest streak in terms of poker media of being at consecutive World Series of Poker live.
Wow.
So, because that COVID year
one took a lot of people out.
So,
not Chad Holloway.
I will be there this year. I'd like to see the bracelet winners only event return to the schedule. So, that was a fun one.
Did you win a bracelet? He doesn't mention that much.
I waited as long as I could this episode.
Fair and reasonable.
That was fun. I actually got to play with Michael Mizrachi in that event back when they had it 5 years ago, whatever it was.
Nice.
But no, I'm excited for the World Series of Poker. PokerNews will be there. I want to do we've talked a lot, can't share too much at the moment, but a lot of good stuff with the PokerNews podcast, hopefully in conjunction with the WSOP. And I agree with you. I think it's not only a new era for the WSOP, which clearly it is, but by virtue of that, because of what the WSOP is to the poker industry as a whole, I think it's a new era for poker in general and a very exciting one at that.
It's exactly how I see it. Well said.
And they couldn't have made a better choice in their face of the brand. Now give me some money.
Thank you very much. Under the table. Under the table transactions only.
That is going to do it for this episode of the Poker News Podcast. I'm Chad Holloway, Mike Holtz, Ben Ludlow, and back for at least this episode.
Absolutely.
Jeff Platt, congratulations again, and thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, man. Thank y'all for having me.